So do this. All right, we're going to just get started here. The presentation, we're going to jump right in and do the Indigent Defense Expenditure reporting. We're going to go through a few items in the IDER Manual. Then we'll jump over to our reporting website, and we'll navigate a little bit through that, and then we'll discuss how to prepare the report. And I have sample information that we're going to use. Nobody volunteered their county's information, but a week ago I had a county call me. The auditor was no longer with them, and the county judge needed some help, so he had his assistant call me. And their information was really just 2 pages. There wasn't a whole lot there, so it wasn't really hard to actually help them with that data, but I thought it was also a good size to just use their data and then show you how the report ended up. I thought it was a good little sample for everybody else to look at. Then we will go and discuss some common errors when we certify the reports. You know, after all of y'all actually submit your reports, then the staff here at TIDC, we have to go through each one of them and certify them. We are trying to make sure that the information is as accurate as possible. So there are some red flags that we look for. So I'm going to share those with you so that you can start looking for them yourself and maybe prevent anything else. And if we miss them, you know, then that's just information that is wrong as we go forward. Anyway, and then at the end, we're going to look at some data sheets that are derived from the Indigent Defense report that you report on. And I think it's important that you know how your information is being used. The website that we do all this reporting is public information, and we get people from all over the United States that are actually looking at it. We do have reporters that call and want to look at it. You've got your legislatures that want to look at it. We try to point it out to county judges if there's situations. So the information is actually being looked at, and so we want to make sure it's accurate as possible. And at the end, we will have a question and answer session, because my intention when I started doing this training was really to tackle small groups and let you use your information and actually ask questions that pertain to you. But as I can't get across the whole state just right before the IDER is due, we're just starting to do smaller group versions. So I do have one meeting going on in Hill County Thursday, and then a second one in Midland County on Monday. So all just right before the report is due. But we'll try to answer your questions. I will tell you that everybody on the IDER staff or the TIDC staff here, we're more than happy to answer any questions that come up as you are working on your report. So first thing, I'm going to pause here and let you write down this web link. This is the link to our TIDC website, and we're going to go straight to the manual. Now, Edwin just prepared this manual. It finalized it, and it was sent out, I think, to all the county auditors, or at least the county official, the financial person listed for the county. So if you end up being somebody on staff that really didn't get the report, you got tasked with doing this report, you might not have gotten this report, but this manual, but you can, you have access to it, and it's got a lot of data that if you have questions, you can get answered right away. So this is the front page of our website, and you've got grants and reporting highlighted. We're going to go down this front line. Online submission by the county financial officer is due November 1st, and we have manual. This is the IDER manual for 2018. Right below it is a supplement. If you've got a public defender office, we've got the supplement, and there's additional information you need to know for that. So you just click on that, and it takes you directly to the manual that, and you can find it. It's only 28 pages, but it's got a lot of information. Now I'm going to jump over. I saved the manual in a separate file and highlighted some spots. I didn't want to highlight the manual that's actually available for everybody, but let me go over here and jump to it. But I wanted to make you aware that you have access to this manual and you can get this information. front page. This manual was issued for fiscal year 18. We issued it just this month. The report is due November 1st, 2018. Every year it's due on November 1st. First step is to collect case and expense information for each court from the county's general ledger or invoices for payment made to represent an indigent defendant or juvenile respondent. That's kind of key information. We just collect the data. That can be tricky for some counties, but that's the first step. Then you're going to review the information. We need to make sure that the information you're looking at does not include data for civil cases or any general government cost. So you got to exclude all that. Next step would be to log into the Commission Data website, which is right, the website link is right here, and we start entering the data. We will go from there. We have attorney detail for each court. It's kind of separated out. It's still part of initiating the report, but for a long time we had just a court report, and a few years ago the legislature asked us to start counting attorney caseloads. And so we have this attorney detail report that's now attached to it. After you confirmed all of the information that you entered was what you wanted to enter, then you click submit and print the resulting confirmation page. That's this process in a nutshell. The table of contents, we've got 4 areas that we're going to look at, but I'm not going to go through all of it because you can read it as well as I can, and it's kind of boring to have someone read it to you. But there are a lot of things I wanted you to point out to you. This introduction page has a lot of detail that I think is important, so I am going to read some of this. All Texas counties are required to submit the IDER. We do it annually, and we have Government Code 79.036 that requires us to do this. This report includes all eligible indigent defense expenditures, case counts, attorney information for each court, sorted by the level of case, type of expenditure, and attorney. So that in a nutshell is the report that we're trying to generate here. We capture the expenditures for attorney fees, licensed investigators, expert witness, and other direct litigation costs. We have 4 categories, and case information by attorney. And counties must track and report expenditure, case counts, and attorney information separately for each court. So I thought that was information you needed. The due date is November 1st, 2018 this year, and it's covering October 1st through September 30th. Now that's usually the typical fiscal year for most counties, but not all counties follow that fiscal year, but that's what they are reporting on. You as the county auditor are the main person responsible for filing this report. Sometimes the county does not have an auditor. It usually then falls on the county treasurer, but the county can require anybody that they deem necessary to report this. Changes for FY 2018. Going to bring this up. Several counties in Texas now provide defense representation at Article 1517 hearings. These are often referred to as the magistration court. This is shortly after the defendant's arrest. Counties that fund this defense representation at this stage track the number of defendants represented and amounts expended. A week ago, I had a county call me because she didn't know where to report her one case that had magistration written on the invoice. Okay, at this time, I think there's only 3 counties that we've actually added like a magistration court on their for their county. So this isn't going to affect most of you. If you see the words magistrate on an attorney report, you need to identify which court, was it the county court or the district court that the case maybe would have been charged in, and then just put the case at that level, because you are going to pay an attorney at that fee. But if it didn't go further, just stopped at magistration, we still pay for the attorney, so we need to report it somewhere. But we are talking on this change is really for those 3 counties. Indigent defense defined. Indigent defense refers to the legal requirement under the U.S. and Texas constitutions and Texas statute for the government to provide an attorney and other defense cost on behalf of an adult defendant and juvenile respondent whose life or liberty are at stake and who are financially unable to employ an attorney or pay other defense cost. This is your statute 6, what is it called? This is your Sixth Amendment right. Everybody has the constitutional right that if they are accused of a crime, that they have an attorney present to help them walk them through the procedures. And so if you can't afford an attorney, one gets appointed to you, and this is everybody's right to have this counsel available to them to help them in this situation. So that's the cost that we are trying to gather, is just what it's costing the county to defend somebody. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of people looking at the indigent defense information. So we want it to be as accurate as possible. And then we also calculate the formula grant based on the information, partly based on the total dollar amounts that you are reporting. So it's important on that level as well. I'm going to drop down here, identify eligible expenditures. Okay, we're looking at attorney fees, investigation expenses, expert witness expenses, and other litigation expenses. These are for defending defense cost only. You can have these kind of categories in the prosecution cost, but we are only looking at the cost for these 4 categories when defending somebody. We do need it sorted by case type. So you've got the capital cases, non-capital felony, misdemeanor juvenile, and then all the appeal levels for those 4 as well. Right here, we had some information stricken, like they're changing this rule. It said attorney's fees paid by the county are managed assigned to represent a defendant for contempt of court charges arising from a civil action are allowable as the representation is limited to the loss of liberty and not the civil action. That is no longer the case. It has been kind of defined that if a case starts with a civil action, if it started out at civil, we're not going to count it on the criminal side. So I mentioned that because that's changing. So if you had somebody, I think the situation is if they're in contempt of court on child support, they might get caught in that situation. If it started out as civil, it's no longer going to be allowable. Generally, unallowable costs are general government cost, prosecution cost, cost of operating a court system, court reporter, court interpreter. I highlight these because these are some of the areas that I still see issues when I go out and look at the county's information. General government cost at this point, we're identifying competency to stand trial is a general court expenditure. It is not considered defense-related expense. It is the responsibility of the judge to not prosecute anybody that's mentally unfit to stand trial. The prosecuting attorney cannot prosecute somebody that they know is not mentally fit to stand trial, and neither can the defense counsel. So all 3 parties involved in trial, they cannot allow somebody to be prosecuted if they're mentally ill. So to do the test to find out, that goes under mental health and is considered general government cost. So that's where I'm seeing issues. The prosecution costs, you would think that's pretty simple because your prosecuting office usually has their own set of general ledger accounts. But what happens what I've seen is the special prosecutor is appointed. This is usually a defense attorney that's stepping in and filling that role, conflict case or whatever. Well, then when you go to pay this attorney, he's already coded to be an attorney fee and it goes to the court. And so these costs are sneaking into the attorney cost on the IDER. And you have to have a way to pull those out if you've got a special prosecutor throughout the year. So I have seen that. Court reporters, you have to have a court reporter in the courtroom. whether the defendant is indigent or not, so that's not allowable. Although when a court reporter has to transcribe a trial or hearing, we can claim those, especially if you've got an appeal case when you have to get a transcript prepared, then that cost is allowable on the IDER. Court interpreters are the same. You need an interpreter in the courtroom whether the defendant is indigent or not, because the judge is going to need them, and so is the prosecuting. Now, if the defense attorney needs to have an interpreter, let's just say for sign language or whatever, just to help them prepare the defense, that will be a cost that we can consider. So I bring those up because I have seen those costs as allowable. And this is just that mental health evaluation. Not all of them are eligible. They are if they're directly assist the defense attorney in preparing a defense. But like I said, the competency to stand trial, those are not eligible. Case counts. We do want to count cases at the time they are paid. Try to pay them at the end of the case. There are some counties that pay interim payments, but we try to capture the case just one time, and if we all do it at the last payment, then we're capturing the correct data. For public defender offices, they are counted when they're disposed. Now, we've got it highlighted. Counting cases should not be confused with counting attorney fee vouchers or payments. You've got to actually, sometimes those vouchers have more than one case on there. So you can't just say, count your vouchers all up and then say that's the number of cases. You've got to actually have a way to track the number of cases on each voucher. Now, I do have some counties that require that a separate voucher be submitted for each case. I've had counties actually put in the description line, parentheses, the number of cases on that voucher, so then when they sort that description, they can pick out that information. So sometimes you just have them enter 2 lines, or however many cases are, they'll enter a separate line for each one, even though it'll be the same voucher. So I'll bring that to your attention. The definition of a case for purposes of the IDER, we wanted to bring that to your attention. If a single indictment or information names more than one defendant, there is more than one case. So the example here is if there's 3 defendants that are named, that's 3 different cases. If you've got the same defendant and they're charged in more than one indictment, then there's more than one case. And then lastly, if an indictment or information contains more than one count, well, that's one case. So, I've seen vouchers that have 8 counts of this or whatever. It's just one case. So I just brought that to your attention. If you have any questions on how to count a case, you can go here and look that up. There's some more information here. Total cases. When we get to the next step, cases with multiple attorneys appointed will be reported as one case on the court portion of the report, but then each attorney will get counted one case on the attorney detail report. So that may not, you may end up on the attorney detail having more cases listed than you do on the court report. Just some more data here. The attorney level detail, I think it'll be better once we start looking at that data that you'll understand this. So we'll go on. Highlight real quick, the amounts reported on the attorney level detail portion of the court expenditure should tie into the attorney fees portion on the court report, and you're only paying those fees. So I'll bring that up when we're looking at the actual attorney detail report. This information here is for template information if you need to upload your attorney report. You need data put in these categories. And the rest I'm just going to leave for you to go through and find out. I think I hit some highlights. And there's a lot of really useful information, and a lot of questions can be answered if you just go through and look at this manual. So I want to make sure you knew it was available. I think there was even a section on how to actually go in and file everything. So anyway, I'm going to step out of this, and we're going to go, let's see. Oh, where do I find that? Okay, I don't see any questions at this time. Okay, okay. Okay. I'm so glad I have help. All right, so we're going to log into the reporting database. So here's the website. All right, this goes straight to mine. I'm already logging in. I'm going to log in. So once you get logged in, there was information, if you don't have your password to log in the manual, of how you can get that information so that you can log in. So follow that. But anyway, this is what my screen looks like. It may be slightly different from your screen. I think I've got a few administrative things that I can look at that maybe you're not available on your screen. But this is basically what it looks like here. We don't have anything selected here. We do have the select year 2018 here. I'm going to point out and highlight formula grant, discretionary grant information, and down here, Indigent to ID expenditure report. This is where we're going. So first step, I'm just going to look at the status report. I can already see, we do have one county that I've completed, and we'll talk about that in a minute. 35 counties are in progress. We've actually got 42 that have submitted, but they don't have any, 2 of them don't have any attorney details, so that may be an issue. But anyway, we're looking at this, and I see Anderson and Andrews have already, they're in progress, so I don't want to touch there. I'm going to go to Angelina County just because they're the next ones on the list. They have not started, so I'm not going to interrupt anything with them, but I just wanted to look at that. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to put Angelina County in. We're going to look at 2018. We're going to slide down here to the ID expenditure report. I'm actually going to do this first one. And this is the screen that every county has, a screen similar to this that pops up.
Looks like you do have a question.
Oh, let's see. I can't hear. Oh, if we had cases that closed in 2000 but were paid out.
Why don't you read it?
If we had cases that closed in 2018 but were paid out of the 2019 budget after October 1, do we report those on 2018 year? If you paid it in 2019 and it's in that budget, I would count it in 2019. I know there's a lot of people at this point that are accruing their expenses. So you just have to be consistent on this part. So when they're putting it in, it's an 18 expense and they're trying to put it into the expenses for that were paid in 18. If you have a cutoff, you're still paying some stuff for, but I think if you're going into 19 budget, you want to count it in 19. But I have some people that are trying to capture all those expenses in 18 in like October, and they actually get them paid out, but they're still applying them to 18. They're counting them. So it's just be consistent each year. If you accrue them and you count them, don't count them the next year. But if you're going to switch them and then put them in a different budget year, then just count them in the budget that you paid them in. Okay, what was that second question?
Thank you.
The second one as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, there was one right after that. I think it's a DeWitt. You say, oh, I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
All right. Oh. Can you go down? Sorry, this is questions. I'm with DeWitt and I submitted RD on 3, so I think it's complete. Okay. We'll look at that one when we look at some of these. I'll pull yours up and we can look at it. How do I get rid of those questions? Okay, thank you. Anyway, so we're in Angelina County. So the fiscal year used by the county, most of you are going to be, like I said, October 1 through September 30th. There's a couple counties that are different, but the reporting period is going to be for October 1/17 through September. You do want to go to this drop-down menu and select whether you're cash accrual, modified accrual, or other. The financial officer is already in place here. I don't mean to call her out, and I don't think that I am. This is public information. But anyway, if you're just somebody in the office that gets tasked with doing this report, please go ahead and put your name and your email address and phone number here. We will contact you directly if we have a question on it, and that way it just gets a middleman out. So looking at reimbursements right here, we've got three categories of reimbursements. The first one is if the judge has required some defendants to pay back court cost, you need to capture those, and this is the amount this is the box that you're going to report that in. And most counties have some costs that they've collected from defendants, so they fill this in. These other two reimbursements, rarely do we have anybody fill this in, but it does happen. Total amount received from the state comptroller for 11.071 writs of habeas corpus. Not very many, but sometimes it does happen. Don't get me to lying, writs. There's somebody with forensic writs that does everything, but sometimes they have a conflict case and the county has to have somebody do it, and so the state reimburses them for that. That's what that is. But this other reimbursements for amounts received for indigent defense costs from other private or government grants. We have quite a few people that put the formula grants that we give them in this box. So when we say other private or government grants, we're not talking about TIDC grants, okay? And I think last year there was one county that we knew of that did receive some other grants, funds for indigent defense, but mostly this is empty. The next group of boxes, this is the regional indigent defense programs, and we've got several going across the state. The one most counties are included in is the Regional Public Defender's Office for capital cases. And so most counties are included in that. TRALA is another one. We've got some counties that are involved in the TRALA report. So we got a couple of things here. We got three boxes. Total funds received from participating counties. So this is going to be for the host county. Lubbock County will be one of them, and I don't know, B County I think might be one. So they're going to put information like the dollar amounts that they're receiving from the other counties there. So that does not pertain to most of us. Most people are going to be doing the second line. Total funds paid to the host county for the Regional Indigent Defense Program. So every year, if you are a part of the RPDO, the dollar amount that you paid for that year to be included in that program, you want to put in the second box. And then money that the county is holding for fund balance. I think there's trust fund money for Lubbock County when they go out and they've got a capital case, they may be holding some money that's not expended yet. They'll report it there, but you're mostly concerned on this second box. And if you're part of both TRALA and the RPDO, you combine the two amounts and put it there, okay? So then we get down to the court report. And this is a little different. This is the same setup on every county, but every county's got the different courts in their system, and it just comes up this way. So for Angelina County, they've got the 2 district courts and 2 county court at law. This court ID number, each court is given that number, assigned that number, and so you can look here when you need that number to fill in that template for the attorney detail report. That was one of the items that they needed, so that ID number is right here. But anyway, so here we are at the first of the court report. So how do we get to the court report? Well, I'm just going to double click on this first one, the 159th District Court. And this is what the page looks like. It's got the district court, the expenditure. So we've got 4 expenditure categories: attorney fees, investigation, expert, and other. So you just have your boxes. Then we've got assigned counsel, contract counsel, or managed assigned counsel. And then you do have a public defender, but we've got a separate addendum for that reporting, so that would not go here. But you've got these 3 levels that most counties fit in there. And so you're also breaking each court down, whether they hear juvenile, capital, felony, misdemeanor, and then the different appeal level cases. And this front part is the dollar amount will be reported here. We just go on down a little bit and we've got, this is where we want to count the cases for each level. And we're just putting the number of cases. And so your public defender does follow, it'll be reported here because it will tie to your attorney detail report. So this is it in a nutshell. We will show you some data here and fill it in. I'm going to click right here. This is one way to get to the detailed attorney detail report. Here we go. There's only one line available. Nothing's filled in at this time. I don't really want to change her report at this time, but if you read in this instructions, you'll see this click on load previous. You can click on highlight right there. If we clicked on it, it's going to auto populate the bar card and attorney names for last year. So all that data is already done for you. If you need to add an attorney because they're not on the list, they were added the year, just go to the bottom of the list and start filling out the information. And once you hit click, another line will appear. So we've got two things. We can also upload this information if you fill out a template, which was outlined earlier in the manual there. So I'm not going to upgrade that, but we'll look at one that's completed here in a minute. So I'm going back to the front page. I call this the first page, and this is court report. And then you've got a pencil here. It takes you to the attorney detail report as well. So there's two ways to get into that report. And you just double click on these and you've got your county court at law. So you're breaking down these expenditures by court. And so that's the general information that you need to have. This other information is addendums that most people are not responsible for. The attorney practice time, you're not responsible for that. Is just there right this time, so you can ignore it at this time. All right. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go show you this data that we got. Now, Hansard County was the county. The assistant to the judge sent me the information. I tried to redact some of the information because I didn't want to really get it out there, but it's all public information and there's nothing, it's really simple stuff. So I'm just going to use it anyway. So let me see if I can expand this. Get this going. All right. So like I said, she had two sheets. This first sheet was the district judge. She said, so it's her district court cases and all of her expenses fit on one sheet. So there's not a whole lot to count here. Oh, okay. Let's look at this one question. Where should we report funds received from TIDC for an extraordinary disbursement grant that helped pay defense costs on a capital case? Let me, hold on. So would we include grant funding received for the discretionary grant? No, you don't include funding for the grant on that first page where we were talking for TIDC. You don't include any of that there. But what you would include, which has had me going, what do I do? The expenses that you actually incurred will be included on your report. But the money that we gave you, no, we don't want you to include that anywhere. We actually know how much we gave you, and it's part of the formula grant. It's calculated in there. So we have that information. We don't want to be duplicating those expenses. So I hope that the county match, no. No, you just have to include all the expenses at this point. And If you include all the expenses and then we have the amount that we give you, then we're already kind of including the county match because it should be part of the expenditures. I hope that helps you. All right, so let's go back. This information is real simple here, but when I took a look at it, I noticed case number CV, 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 CV. We had a couple something. Then we finally get to CR and CR. And in my experience, looking at some of these cases, CV stands for a civil case, and the CR is for criminal. There is a JV here for juvenile. You had an unindicted case, but I did ask the this administrator if the CV was for civil cases, and she said yes, that her district judge hears civil cases. So I said, well, we'll have to back all that information out. So she had $29,780. Told you it's not a whole lot of money. It was just on one page. Let's go to where we rotate this view. She also had a list of the attorneys and how much each attorney made, and it tied in. But now that we had civil cases, we have to find out what gets taken away from these amounts. But that's the information that she had easily available to her that she provided to me. And then the county judge, the county court, all these cases said CR, and it was $250, 11 cases, so $2,750. Not really hard information to look at, and then and decide how to do this. And once again, she had listed all the attorneys and how much each made for doing those misdemeanor cases. We had to go through and kind of manually, because there weren't very many cases, we manually went through this and counted only the cases that were considered criminal. We had 19 cases. Like I said, one was a juvenile, JV, $340. None of these cases seem to be more than one case on the listed. Oh my goodness, okay. One unindicted case, it still gets counted. You paid the attorney. So we broke it down. We had 340 go into juvenile, 21,620 to adult, a total of $21,960. And then the rest was the same. So we broke down her district judge, civil. So it was really pretty easy because the first three only handled civil, so we were able to delete those. We did have, I think, 3 attorneys that had both the criminal and the civil, so we just separated them out and came up with the amounts and then supported all those totals. So I am going to go over here and we're going to look at Hansard County. And that is the one county that's already been certified complete. We'll look at it. So Hansard County put in their information. That was Brenda Vera, the county court administrator. She went and found her reimbursements, found out how much the Regional Indigent Defense Program cost them. And then we went to the 84th District Court. And we had that 340 for juvenile, 21,620 for adult felonies, all in the district court. And there were no other expenses, just paying attorneys to do these cases. We'll click here, and under juvenile, you just had the one attorney got one case. And then you had your 18 cases for the felony. So that all tied. And then the $21,960 total tied to the dollar amount of attorney fees. Point out real quick, you can go up to this corner and do this drop down and you can sort by attorney's last name. I find that to be very helpful. You can do this before you're doing the data entry in the box. Since hers has already been submitted, you don't have the little boxes anymore outlined here. But this was what it looked like once we filled that out. I get confused on this. Okay, so we'll go back one more. We'll go to the county court. And she had everything listed under adult misdemeanors. All of her cases were listed under adult misdemeanor. They were 11 of them. Went over here, all 11 cases listed on this attorney detail report under adult misdemeanor, and then the dollar amounts over here on the side, $27.50. So this is what that information looks like. Of course, when you're dealing with hundreds and sometimes thousands of lines of data, it's not this simple. But Excel is wonderful. But I just thought that information was a good sample to look at for this. So I wanted to display that. Do we have any more questions? No. Okay. All right, so that was simple. What was the next step? Oh, let me go back to the PowerPoint. I want to go through when we call and why we're asking call. Okay, so like I said, all hands on deck. So after November 1st, we're going to start tackling this as a group, and it takes us a good month to go through all 254 counties. But we don't see your data. We don't know what it looks like, but we can look at these reports. And so this is the front page of a report. I redacted it. This was taken 2 years ago. I took some screenshots because we kind of have to be reminded every year what we're looking for when we do this as well. So this is the front page, and went ahead and saved it because this is the front page that we're looking at. And that same sheet, kind of highlighting here, we'll kind of highlight, there's no information in here for the Regional Public Defender's Office. And we actually kind of do know Lubbock actually does report how much money they get from each county, but sometimes they miss a county and they don't get it on the list. And sometimes, so in most counties, I think there's over 180 counties that are in the program now. So we expect to maybe see that. So if you don't participate, you're not going to have anything there. But, you know, if I know that you're on this other list and then you don't report it here, I'm looking. So I'm going to call you and ask, hey, can we include your Regional Public Defender Office? And this is because the money should be there. Okay, got it. All right. This next one, like I pointed out, we've got people that will put their reimbursements here. This was somebody's, the formula grant, they put it there thinking that that's where they got this government grant and it needed to go there. And so I'm just telling you, don't include the money that we give you. We're looking for other funding sources. I look at this front page and I see we have a county court and a multi-county court at law that has no information in there. So I'm going to call and I'm going to ask. They might not have had any misdemeanor cases in their county. We've got small enough counties that don't always have cases. I think that was the case in this time. I think their district court is the only one that had any cases, and the multi-county court at law was actually logged there, but it hadn't been put in place. I think the legislature put stuff in place like January 1, so, but we may already have it logged and ready to go. So I think that was the case. So this was fine. It's just that it caught my attention that there was no data there. So here we are, we're looking at no money in the adult misdemeanors, and then we've got 24 cases listed here. You'll see that there are juvenile appeals money listed for contract here, but the 24 cases are not listed under juvenile appeal. And appeals are not as common as your regular misdemeanor and felonies, so it stands to reason that maybe this dollar amount should have been misdemeanors up here. But anyway, worth a question. This next one, we're highlighting adult felony appeals. We've got attorney fees, investigation expert, other litigation costs. We have no cases listed under appeals here. They're all listed under felony cases here. So I'm guessing maybe the adult felony appeals was supposed to be adult felony information. So we made a phone call. Looking at this one, we're looking at a district court up here, and all the costs included were for misdemeanors. Typically, your district courts hear felony cases, and your county courts hear your misdemeanor cases. Of course, the district court can hear misdemeanors because they can hear all levels pretty much. But in this manner, they just put it on the wrong line. And here we're looking at one that's actually a county court, and all the money's listed under felony. So we really want them to include that under the misdemeanor court, and that's what was going on there. Oops, okay. The next one, there's no data listed under adult misdemeanors up here, but we have 3 cases here. You had 1 felony appeal there, but what happened here, we had 3 cases listed but no money. And this actually was okay with us because the misdemeanors were attached to a felony charge. So they reported everything under the felony level, including the 100% of the dollar amount paid to the attorney, but they counted the misdemeanor, and we're good with that. This next one, we're looking, this is the front page of the report when you fill out data. We're doing the court report against the attorney detail report, and then the differences are coming up. This is one count, and like I said earlier, your attorney fees should tie to the court report attorney fees, and sometimes your case amount may not be the same. But if it is going to be different, it needs to be more on the attorney detail report, because if you have more than one attorney that actually works on a case, we're going to count that case for each attorney. So that's what this was, but you see that one. So just looking at that. Now we're looking at an attorney detail report, and we got these huge case numbers. Well, this is actually the dollar amount. Oh, someone was not allowed to enter. Okay, so 2,600 cases, 4,300 cases, 11,000 cases. These amounts for these case counts, they're whole dollars only, or whole numbers only. And whoever did this work did a lot of work allocating the amount per level of case, how much that attorney got paid. But we're actually looking for case numbers. So these are supposed to be dollar amounts. And then they should have been in this last attorney fees paid column, but they were listing them and breaking them out. So they did a lot of extra work here. Sorry to say that. This is another example where they've got the attorney fees listed here, and they've got dollars and cents here, but then they split out how much was juvenile and how much was felony. But this is supposed to be case count, not the dollar amount in those cases. So, yes, the total amount paid to the attorney, but we're really looking for the case number. This is the front page again, the 31st District in the County Court. They had no cases listed for the court report. So the differences came up with the attorney detail report, showed us, hey, there's differences here. So we look at this where there's differences. Attorney fees paid on the detail report entered the total expenditure amount, but the attorney fees were $77,150. We want these amounts to be the attorney fee amount to be the same. And so what I'm suspecting happened here is that attorneys got reimbursed from attorney fees. And so everything that was paid to the attorney was reported on the attorney detail, and they didn't split out those reimbursements. So total $304.95. But we ended up having to ask them to go in and put the case count for the court report. How are we doing on top? Same scenario, we just have a difference here on the attorney fees. The amount reported on the detailed ended up the total expenditure, when in reality the fees were $178 less. So they're including everything. They didn't break out those expenses. And so that's why that difference popped up. This one, you've got money spent under the assigned counsel, but under contract counsel, you have expert witness and other litigation cost. but that's under contract counsel. And it kind of surprised me because it's at a felony level. We had to make a phone call. Now, we don't really have a place for the RPDO. If you've got these expenditures that the RPDO, if you got a capital murder case that's got turned over to the Regional Public Defender's Office, they do come back and ask you for money to cover the experts and the investigation and other costs that they're going to incur for that case. And since we don't really have a line for kind of public defender, we kind of put those under contract counsel, but it would be under the capital case usually. So I called. I didn't know what this was, but it catches my eye that it's not on all under assigned counsel. It could very well have been that it should have just been up a line. We've got felony appeals here. What was the difference here? Oh, I think this is the last one. We have felony appeals here, but we don't have any transcript costs. So all of your appeals should have a transcript submitted to it. And so we will cover the cost of that court reporter preparing that transcript. So you can include it, and we look for it. So it's just something that you can include versus us saying, no, that's not allowable. But
we're nearly at the end of the hour, so let's see if there's questions.
Okay, I'm going to look at questions. The county match. Okay, regarding the case count. If a case is open and paid out multiple times over the course of 3 years, do you count the case only once ever, or do you only count that case once in that specified grant year? Okay, I've got actually conflicting stories here in this office. So personally, I would like to see the case counted only one time at the end of the case. But if you've got a capital case and you're spending a lot of money every year, and the fact that we can't go through every year, see if you counted it the year before, we are allowing you to count that case every year that you have an expenditure. I hope that answers that question. Especially if you got a capital case and you're spending money this year, you can count it. But yes, it does happen because cases go over several periods of time. But if you were to just pay once at the end, you would be only counting it the one time it was paid. But some, like I said, some of these get to be really costly, so we will allow you to count it. It is going to skew that number, but it's not too much that, as long as it's not like every case that you presented that year, we should be good on the trend line that comes out of that reporting. Let me see, I'm trying to answer these questions. I'm sorry, I'm trying. We received grant funding. The county regarding the case.
If you click with your next question.
Are payments made to a criminal defense consulting firm an allowable expense? Kathy, I don't know what you're referring to. Possibly. It depends if the defense attorney, is it something that they're asking for expert witness? Did the judge authorize the expenditure? I don't know what's all involved in that. I'm not quite sure. I could be. I don't know if that's a good enough answer, but we can follow up if you have something specific. So the total funds paid to a host county is where it should go if we send payment to Lubbock County. Yes, that's that second box. Oh, okay. We are a small county and we'll have nothing to report in 2018. Do we still file the report with a 0? Yes. What small county is that? Loving County is the only one that I know of. But they still have some expenditures. Okay, Regina, we'll be looking for yours with 0 expenditures, but yes, you would. I am having an issue gathering all the information for juvenile cases. Okay, please call. We will talk to you about how we can get that information together for you. The 2 cases we had were not paid until the 2019 budget year, so we will add them to next year. Okay, Regina, so you had 0 for 18. Interesting. Okay, I am hoping that they have this count to me by Monday so that I can incorporate it into my final report. All right, sounds good. Yeah, we can look at your juvenile information. Kent, Regina Coulter, sounds good. All right, I think that was the questions answered. I know we're getting close to an hour. I did want to go look at a couple of, I wanted you to see the information that's coming out. So let me go over here to the website again. I escaped out of this. Okay, let's see, DeWitt County, you said you were here, so let's look at your county. DeWitt. I'm going to look at 2017 since we're still working on the 18 information. Right here, we've got county data sheet. So for DeWitt County, we've got, the base year was 2001. That's when we started keeping up with some of this information. Then we get the latest 5 years of data is put on here. So 2017, you had 20,884 people in your county. Your district clerk reported to OCA that there were 328 new felony cases filed that year. Your report said you paid out 280 cases. So this is where it's important that you're counting the cases like one time over a stream. And we're just going to let that go. I know that people are worried about that, but 280, so you're at an 85% appointment rate. The state average is 76% on felony levels. Anyway, you're spending $109,000 and the total court expenditures was 125. This information, the 280, the 109, 125, comes from your IDER report. Your misdemeanor, your county clerk reported to OCA that there was 461 new cases, and then you paid on 178 cases this year. So now you're 39%, and the statewide average is 46%. And that's on misdemeanor appointments. And then juvenile, this number gets skewed all the time. I find that a lot of times that we are counting every time we pay an attorney on the juvenile cases, every time they go in for a hearing, and that could be six times, like they're going to be reviewed. So this number is skewed. You can see it for the whole state, 29,000 new cases, but there's 39,000 that were paid for. That number is not obviously incorrect, but that's what y'all are reporting, so that's why that number is getting there. If there's a way that you can count just the one case and find that it's been duplicated however many times, that'd be awesome, but we know that number's skewed, but this comes from your report. So the total ID expenditures for 2017 was $175,000. That's a $308,000, 308% increase from your base year. So right now your county spends $8.41 per person on indigent defense, up from $2.15, and you're getting like 29,000 in commission grants, and you got 10,000 reimbursed. And so this information, this is what I was trying to point out. Every county has this data sheet, and you can look at your county, and this is information that's available anywhere. So I just think it's important that you know where it's going. And so, yes, your district clerk and your county clerk are reporting some information, but the rest of it's from the IDER. So that's all I've got. Let me see if there's any more questions. If you use contract counsel, but one of your contract attorneys are also assigned to an appeal case, do we count those under contract and then under assigned for the appeal case? Okay, Julie, seems to me the appeal case is appointed, and I would do that as an appointed attorney because the contract is probably just to handle misdemeanor or felony level. And even though a case, it may be, and sometimes they appoint a different attorney at the appeal level, someone that has that experience. If it's appointed to do that appeal, sometimes that case number is the same, but it's actually a separate case when it goes to appeal. At least that's the way we look at it in our end. So I would count them as appointed on the appeal level and contract the information for what they're under on contract. I would bet that the contract's just for felony or misdemeanor cases. So that's one you could look at the contract and actually answer that question from there. But I would suspect it would be separate. Okay. Are there any more questions? If I didn't answer, if you still have some questions just pertaining to something specific to your county, please call us. I actually don't have my phone number, but I don't call myself, so I don't have the number available to give you right now. You know what? I do have it right here. It's 512-936-7561. So call me, and we'll, anybody here at the office will be happy to help you. So that's it for right now. I hope you learned something. I hope it was a good refresher. Oh, 2 more questions. Where do we enter the magistrated cost in the attorney detail report? Okay, so is your county one of the counties that reports magistrate court? If yours one of the counties that just has something that says magistrate, we're going to try to identify a court if it's county or a district, and then it'll be reported at that level. Can you repeat that number? Oh, repeat the phone number. My phone number is 512-936-7561. All right, thank y'all very much.